You voted against civil unions in 2004. In 2005, you voted for the definition of marriage to be one man, one woman. You voted against same-sex marriage in 2013. You've been pretty consistent. Thank you for that. At your first media conference, you said, and I quote, "I would probably vote differently now. I don't think it's a threat to anyone else's marriage. It's an affirmation of the concept." What happened?
Well, what I said. I mean, I accept that, the law's changed. It is how it is. I mean, there's some ironies. It's interesting that in this context, everyone's very positive about marriage, whereas in the broader context, there's a lot less of it happening. But my position is what was there. That is, the people have taken up the option. I don't believe it affects my marriage or those people who choose to marry. I think absolutely believe there's benefits from stable, committed marriage of a man and a woman. There may be clearly people who believe there's benefits from the stable, committed gay marriage. So I'm not, setting out to reverse it or change it, except that it's there.
Do you personally still define marriage as one man, one woman?
Well, you've got to. Well, that's
just personally.
That's my definition of it.
That's your personal.
So you've got to remember though what goes on here. This is about a government system for registering relationships. I happen to be married in the Catholic Church, which has a view about marriage and what it constitutes, and the registration of that marriage happens to be a requirement of government. It's not the requirements of government aren't at the core of my marriage. What I think is important here is that there's a kind of broad tolerance of my version of marriage as well. And I think that's pretty much the case.
But I think as we observed that media conference, if you had said, look, the law has changed, I accept that the law has changed, I still personally believe that marriage is one man on one woman, but you said I would probably vote differently now. Did you mean to say that?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I said it, and I meant it.
So if a bill was introduced by another political party that says we're going to restore marriage back to one man, one woman, you would vote against it?
Well, I think that's pretty hypothetical. I can't imagine that that's going to happen, actually.
You never be surprised by Winston?
Well, I think sometimes he surprises himself.
You see, because my next question is, will you support a bill to extend marriage to allow polygamy and group marriage? I'm assuming that's an oppose.
No, that's right, I wouldn't.
See, I would then throw it back at you, well, it's not a threat to your marriage.
I think that... these issues are always about where the boundary falls, because, if we all lived perfect lives according to crystal clear principles, you wouldn't even need the law. But we don't all live that way, and politicians are no exception. No guarantees of virtue, that's for sure. So it's always about the community deciding the breadth of what it regards as acceptable behaviour, and always in this balance of the extent to which I can make choices in a free society without affecting someone else. And it's a bit like, the drinking age. Why is it 18 or why is it 20, and how come we argue over it so much? Because in principle, why does the age make any difference? Well, we have big arguments about whether it's 18 or 20. And I think, but the same with the state definition of a relationship. That's changed over time, reflects to a large extent community preferences, and as a politician and a legislator, you're inevitably part of those arguments. And I think that you can draw all sorts of implications from what might happen if the state moves away, as it has, from a definition of marriage of men and women. A lot of those are, I think, theoretical outside the bounds of what our community would regard as acceptable and reasonable, and are unlikely to surface in my lifetime as legislative possibilities.
Because it leads on to the next question, should the government promote marriage full stop? For example, we've released 2 reports on child poverty and child abuse and looked at family structure, and one of the safest places for children to live in is in a home where mum and dad are married, and it's also one of the least likely places to be struggling financially for there to be child poverty. You know, breakdown of family, bad formation of families, huge risk factors for both. So should the state be promoting marriage?
Well, I think it's got some higher priority tasks first. I mean, the analysis you present is pretty clear cut. I mean, if kids are in a household where there's parents married or at least in a long-term relationship and work, then their prospects are much better. And at the other extreme, you've got, as I think I said at the start, thousands of kids where they don't have either of those things. And the evidence is pretty clear that while some of them will get on fine, more of them will struggle. So I would say the first thing the government needs to do is to work out how to interact with those households in a way that gives them some opportunity or supports them in the opportunity to rebuild resilience, to rebuild structure, and hopefully to rebuild the kind of relationships that are going to protect children in the way that, and protect them and provide them opportunities in the way that you've described. Getting into a campaign promoting marriage, I think, would be a big distraction, because it would just bring out a whole lot of sort of philosophical arguments over whether the government should have a view, what does it mean by that. I think our top priority is for the government to stop, for government agency, even with good intentions, to stop undermining what are already brittle households with random and chaotic interventions in a way that means people find it very hard to build trust in each other, let alone in the government, or build the protective environment that their children deserve. And we spend quite a lot of time on this in recent years.